Shocked, exciting, and maybe just a little panic, she ran outside to find Spruce. And when she told him the news, his reaction was instant, pure joy. The Spruce Almighty lit up like a midsummer solstice, absolutely elated. Hey Simmers, welcome back to the channel. Today She-Hulk arrived with a mission to heal Sims plagued by strange ailments. The first thing on her list was getting started in the naturopathy career. As soon as She-Hulk signed up, the game immediately prompted her with a jumpstart option, which of course she took. The task was to craft 3 elixirs, but there was one small problem. She-Hulk didn't own an apothecary table, not even a rusty one. So instead of panicking, she did what any resourceful sim would do. She walked up to the apothecary stall guy and took on a fable. If she couldn't craft elixirs just yet, she might as well earn some coin the old-fashioned way, by running someone else's errands and pretending it's heroic. Once she logged in the fable, She-Hulk got straight to work. She headed over to the nearby crafting table and began studying the cures, hands-on, no theory nonsense. She mixed, mashed and tested ingredients like she was prepping for battle, because let's face it, when you're She-Hulk, even learning how to make medicine looks like combat practice. As soon as she hit level 2, She-Hulk made a beeline for the nearby park, hoping to learn more about the holistic cures, this time through a computer. She found one nestled near the garden and got to work. People came and went, chatting, laughing, even standing way too close, but she didn't flinch. Focused and unbothered, She-Hulk tuned it all out and kept studying. Later, while walking through the neighborhood, She-Hulk crossed paths with a man called the tradesperson. He looked like he knew things, maybe too many things. After a bit of casual street-side conversation, he offered her a favor, and of course she took it. Another task meant more coin, more experience and more chances to prove she could handle naturopathy with as much force as a courtroom brawl. To satiate her hunger, She-Hulk headed to the park and grilled some fruit. Nothing fancy, just enough to keep her going. Once she had eaten, there was no time to relax. She spotted a few Sims nearby and walked over, ready to spread the word. She walked straight over to the nearby Sims and struck up a conversation about trading. After all, the tradesperson had wares to sell and she had a fable to complete. She kept advertising, pitching the tradesperson's wares with all the enthusiasm of a one-sim marketing team. But after a while, the other Sims started to lose interest. One by one, they drifted off. Bored, distracted, or just plain done. Not everyone's ready for the She-Hulk's energy, especially when it's wrapped in sales talk. To complete the final part of the fable, She-Hulk did what most Sims would never dream of. She slept on the ground. No tent, no bench, just grass and grit. It wasn't comfortable, but it was intentional. Every minute spent roughing it boosted her natural skill living, bringing her one step closer to the naturopathic path. At sunrise, She-Hulk made her way to Everdue, carrying the tradesperson goods with determined strides. Her mission was clear, to deliver the package to Moswell. No shortcuts, no compliance, just pure focus. It wasn't exactly hero work, but every fable counts, and today that meant being a courier with a cause. Once the delivery mission was behind her, She-Hulk noticed a plant sim nearby and didn't miss the opportunity. She walked over and asked for a forbidden fruit. Surprisingly, the plant sim handed it over without a second thought, like it was no big deal. She-Hulk took one look at it, shrugged, and took a bite. In an instant, she was airborne, twirling through the air with a burst of green energy and a proud puff of her chest. When she landed, she was fully transformed. She was finally, truly green. Once the transformation was complete, She-Hulk turned her attention to a nearby tree log, oddly shaped, almost humming with energy. She reached out and summoned something. It was none other than the Spruce Almighty himself. She-Hulk started talking to the Spruce Almighty, expecting maybe a few polite words, some cryptic wisdom, and that would be it. But no, within 2 minutes they were vibing, like really vibing. Maybe it was the shared love of sunlight, maybe it was the mutual respect for leaves, or maybe it was just the deep-rooted plant sim energy. Whatever it was, they connected instantly. And then, as if drawn by some ancient forest magic or just Sims being Sims, they slipped away into the nearby bush. Not for shelter, not for shade. They woohooed right there in the heart of the grove, because nothing says bonding like disappearing into a shrub with the local plant deity. When they finally emerged from the bush, leaves in their hair and absolutely no shame, something had shifted. No grand gestures, no candlelight dates, just one chaotic woohoo in the wild. And yet, somehow they were now romantic partners. Just like that, out of the blue. But they didn't stop there. Right there in the middle of the grove, they sealed their brand new relationship with a passionate kiss. Bold, green and completely unbothered, just the way She-Hulk likes it. Once they were finally settled into the house, the welcome wagon arrived. Cheerful neighbors, fruitcake in tow, and ready to break the ice. She-Hulk greeted them at the door, offered a quick smile, and invited them in like a good hostess. But the moment they stepped in, she disappeared, straight into the bedroom with the Spruce Almighty. This time, no bush, no camouflage, just the bed. Classic, cozy and right to the point. While the neighbors made themselves at home in the living room, She-Hulk was upstairs sealing the deal again with her leafy lover. Welcome to the neighborhood in day 8. Once that little detour was over, She-Hulk got right back to business. She stepped outside, still glowing from, let's call it, bonding, and headed straight for the cluster of mushrooms nearby. The spruce almighty's fable wasn't going to complete itself, and those mushrooms were the final piece. But things didn't go quite as planned. She-Hulk examined the mushrooms, ready to crack the mystery, but out of the 4 she needed to solve, she could only manage 2. The problem was she was short on funds, and worse, missing a crucial ingredient, the elusive lightning leaf. No coin, no leaf, no progress. Even superheroes hit walls, especially when those walls are made of mushrooms and budget constraints. Determined not to be outdone by a few stubborn mushrooms, She-Hulk made her way to the nearest store. If she couldn't find a lightning leaf, she would grow one herself. She picked up some seed packets and a couple of planter boxes, simple tools but powerful in the right hands. Back home, she set them up like a true green warrior, ready to turn her garden into a source of strength and maybe a little vengeance. She got straight to work. With her new planter boxes in place, she planted a variety of fruits, flowers and herbs, each one carefully chosen, each one with a purpose. It wasn't just gardening, it was strategy. She wasn't just thinking about today's task, she was planting for the future, for cures, for elixirs and maybe even for a little peace. After all, even a powerhouse like She-Hulk needs to grow something other than drama now and then. As her reserves were running low and the green glow starting to fade, She-Hulk knew she had to act fast. So she did what any resourceful plant sim would do. She found a nearby indoor plant, placed her hands on its leaves and began to absorb its solar energy. No sunlight, no problem. The plant did the job. Slowly her strength returned, the green hue deepened, and just like that, she was back in full bloom. Fully recharged, She-Hulk decided it was time to take a pregnancy test just to be sure. After all, a woohoo with the spruce almighty isn't exactly your everyday garden romance. A few moments later, the result was clear. Eating for 2. Shocked, exciting, and maybe just a little panic. She ran outside to find Spruce, and when she told him the news, his reaction was instant, pure joy. The Spruce almighty lit up like a midsummer solstice, absolutely elated. After hearing the news and seeing the joy on Spruce's face, something stirred in She-Hulk. Without a word, she dropped to one knee, heart pounding like never before. She looked up at him and asked the question, quietly but with full conviction. Spruce, still glowing from the thought of becoming a parent, smiled without hesitation and said yes. She had faced battles, brewed elixirs and embraced the wild roots of nature, but this moment felt bigger than all of that. After quite literally draining the plant of all its solar energy, She-Hulk headed downstairs feeling fully recharged and just a tiny bit guilty. So in true plant sim fashion, she gave the poor thing a nice long drink of water, a peace offering maybe, or just good plant manners. Either way, it was her way of saying thanks for the energy. The next morning, instead of heading out like she did every day, She-Hulk decided to bring work home. She made the call and not long after, her patient arrived right on her porch. She-Hulk greeted them with confidence, ready to treat whatever ailed them. But things didn't go as smoothly as planned. The patient seemed restless, uneasy, and before She-Hulk could even begin treatment, she turned and started walking off the lot. For a moment, it looked like the session was over before it began. In one last attempt, she stepped forward and gently stopped her. No force, no anger, just a quiet insistence to stay. This time, instead of jumping to conclusions, she listened, really listened. She asked the right questions, looked closer and started to understand the real ailment, not just the symptoms. Sometimes healing starts with simply being heard. A few minutes later, they moved into the living room, less formal, more comfortable. The patient finally opened up and She-Hulk listened with calm focus, no potions, no pressure, just two Sims sitting down and trying to figure things out. They talked through symptoms, fears and possibilities, piecing together the puzzle like teammates instead of doctor and patient. It wasn't flashy, but it was real. And sometimes that's where the true healing begins, in quiet rooms with honest words and a little bit of patience. She-Hulk took out her phone and showed the patient some details, symptoms, remedies and possible solutions. Together, they focused in on the exact cause of the problem. They sealed the moment with a quiet hug. But just as things seemed to settle, the patient suddenly stormed off and in a burst of frustration broke a nearby flower pot. Clearly there was more beneath the surface. She-Hulk returned shortly after with the cure she had crafted earlier. Confidently she administered it And just like that, the patient was healed. With the job done, She-Hulk wrapped up her workday. After finishing her workday, She-Hulk went downstairs and gave the patient a playful poison kiss, a little payback for breaking her flower pot. The patient definitely wasn't happy about that poison kiss. Later that evening, She-Hulk got back to work, crafting elixirs to boost her skills even further. After a long day of healing and drama, she didn't waste time. She slept out on the ground again, pushing her natural living skill higher. That night, She-Hulk couldn't fall asleep because of a persistent creation itch, one of those annoying ailments that just won't quit. Instead of lying awake, frustrated, she decided to buy an easel and start painting. Pouring her restless energy into colors and brush strokes gave her a new kind of focus. Once she finished painting, She-Hulk headed upstairs to finally get some rest. The next morning, a new patient showed up on She-Hulk's doorstep. But just like before, the same old drama unfolded. The patient was restless, frustrated, and on the verge of walking away. It seemed healing was never straightforward, and She-Hulk knew she would have to dig deeper this time to keep them from leaving. After asking several probing questions, She-Hulk finally uncovered the truth. The patient wasn't just sick. They were suffering from an emotional void. It wasn't something that could be fixed with just any elixir. This called for a special cure, carefully crafted to heal what words couldn't reach. She-Hulk asked the patient to wait patiently in her front yard while she headed to the apothecary table to craft the special cure. Every ingredient needed careful attention. This was no ordinary elixir. With focus and determination, she set to work, ready to heal more than just a physical wound. With the special cure finally crafted, She-Hulk made her way back to the patient waiting in her front yard. She handed over the elixir with a steady hand, knowing this wasn't just an ordinary potion. It was a carefully brewed remedy designed to heal more than just physical symptoms. Almost immediately, relief washed over the patient's face as the cure took effect. It was a moment of triumph, proof that her hard work and persistence were paying off. But the victory was more than just personal satisfaction. Word spread quickly, and before she knew it, She-Hulk was promoted to Holistic Care Trainee, a recognition of her growing expertise and dedication to the path of naturopathy. The next day, with no sun in sight, She-Hulk knew she had to find another way to recharge. She made her way to a nearby cluster of mushrooms and absorbed their solar energy. No sunlight required. It was an unusual source of power, but in the world of plant sims, adaptability was key. With a new patient waiting on the pot, She-Hulk got straight to work. Determined to understand his condition, she decided to start with something simple. She asked the patient to drop and do some push-ups. It was an unconventional test, but sometimes the best way to assess a problem is to see how the body handles pressure. This was just the beginning of her approach, practical, direct, and a little bit rough. Once the push-ups were done, She-Hulk felt she was closer to zeroing on the right cure. Confident in her assessment, she asked the patient to wait inside her house while she headed out to the woods to craft the remedy. With every step, she knew the cure had to be just right. She got to work at her crafting bench, carefully mixing every herb to create the luck magnet cure. Precision was key. Each ingredient had to blend perfectly to harness its full power. With focused determination, she stirred and brewed, knowing this cure could turn the patient's luck around. With a carefully crafted cure in hand, She-Hulk approached the patient, her focus sharp and steady. She handed over the elixir, knowing this wasn't just any potion, it was a remedy tailored to heal deep-rooted issues. Almost immediately, the patient's symptoms began to fade, replaced by a wave of visible relief and gratitude. Later that evening, while foraging for ingredients, She-Hulk stumbled upon a cowplant berry, an ominous little gift from nature itself. Without skipping a beat, she handed it to Spruce and asked him to plant it right in front of their house. Spruce, being the helpful partner, planted the berry and tended to it with care, completely unaware of the danger lurking beneath its innocent leaves. After all, how harmful could a plant with a smile really be? To complete her fable, She-Hulk made her way to Everdue, where she sought out one of the elusive fairies for an emotional potion. The fairy, clearly a seasoned trader, asked for 50 simoleons in return. She-Hulk raised an eyebrow, but figured it was a fair price for a sprinkle of magic. Without a second thought, she handed over the cash and secured the potion. With purpose in her stride, she returned to Karen and delivered the potion. She then rushed to the park, eager to complete her work assignment on the public computer, only to find it already occupied by another sim. Not one to wait around, She-Hulk struck up a casual yet assertive conversation, gradually pressuring the sim to move. Once the bench was free, she took the seat with purpose and began studying holistic care, determined to meet her deadline. But the long day of brewing cures, chasing fairies, and tending cow plants had taken its toll. Halfway through the assignment, and despite her efforts to stay focused, she couldn't fight it any longer. Right in the middle of the lesson, She-Hulk passed out cold. collapsing to the ground in exhaustion. After waking up groggy but determined, She-Hulk made her way back to the bench to finish what she started. The park was alive with distractions, Sims chatting loudly nearby, a couple pointing at constellations, someone even playing guitar. But she didn't flinch. Tuning out the noise, she focused on the screen, her green fingers flying across the keyboard. Despite the chaos, she powered through and successfully completed a holistic care lesson. Once that was done, She-Hulk pushed aside her need for rest and set off into the wild, foraging for ingredients under the moonlit sky. She searched every bush, tree stump, and garden bed with focused determination. Sleep could wait, her mission couldn't. With the lightning root leaf finally in the inventory, She-Hulk rushed over to the glowing blue mushroom. Its riddle pulsed with mysterious energy, but she was ready. Channeling her instincts and natural living skills, she solved the riddle confidently, unlocking another step in Spruce's fable. She then sold an extra emotion potion she had crafted earlier, earning just enough simoleons to finally cross the 5,000 mark. Then she rushed to the final mushroom to solve its riddle, but exhaustion caught up to her and she collapsed on the ground just steps before reaching it. As soon as She-Hulk arrived at the hospital, she didn't waste a second. No check-in, no waiting room, just a straight march to the doctor like she owned the place. And apparently, when you are a superhero in labor, formalities go out of the window. As She-Hulk stormed into the hospital, skipping the check-in like the superhero she is, the doctor was already waiting, clearly briefed on who she was dealing with. She climbed onto the surgical table, but things took a strange turn. During the procedure, instead of delivering the baby right away, the doctor somehow pulled out her heart, not once, but twice. Spruce stood by, horrified and speechless, as She-Hulk side-eyed the chaos with her usual unbothered glare. After several wild and questionable attempts, the machine finally did its job, and the baby arrived safe and sound. Superhero or not, childbirth in The Sims is never normal. Back home, She-Hulk barely had time to sit before Don Lothario showed up at her doorstep, looking like he just realized actions have consequences. The town's resident heartbreaker claimed he was feeling under the weather, which honestly sounded like Karma finally catching up with the romantic resume of his. He spoke in vague symptoms, dramatic sighs, and just enough mystery to make it everyone else's problem. She-Hulk, unimpressed but mildly entertained, gave him the look that said, "I have wrestled cow plans, Don, try me." Trying to test Don Lothario's loyalty or maybe just mess with him, She-Hulk threw in a cheeky flirt. Got rejected, but that was a bold move. She wasn't done though. She kept poking around for answers about his mysterious under-the-weather complaint. But all she got was vague whining and zero substance. So naturally, she changed tactics. Asked him about his love life. Big mistake. He lit up like a romantic jukebox, bragging endlessly about his many conquests, past and present. It was less a medical consult and more an ego parade. Slipped into one of her serious thinking suits because clearly diagnosing this guy would take more than just herbs and hugs. Since Dawn wouldn't talk, She-Hulk thought maybe some action would help. Talking about fitness, she asked him to do push-ups and give her the count. Dawn dropped onto the floor and started knocking them out, each rep full of dedication, like he was proving something. But once he was done, instead of waiting for the next step, he casually strolled into the bathroom and jumped into the shower. Yes, while She-Hulk was still right there. She asked him to stop. She even tried pulling him out. But Dawn, he wouldn't listen. He just kept scrubbing away like it was his own personal spa. She-Hulk stood there completely baffled and wondered how did a medical checkup turn into a full-blown spa day for Don Lothario. She took one long look at Don and finally came to terms with the truth. He was beyond repair. No herb, no elixir, not even a full moon ritual could help this man. Karma, after all, is a stronger force than any medication. With a mix of pity and resignation, she gave him a sympathetic hug and offered one last bit of advice. Take a walk in the nature every day. Did it fix him? Absolutely not. But hey, at least the workday was officially over and that was healing enough for She-Hulk. With that whole Dawn fiasco behind, She-Hulk finally got the recognition she deserved, another promotion. This time she chose the lifestyle coaching branch. Why? Because obviously she is She-Hulk. Who better to coach people on life than someone who lifts weights and spirits? With a brand new assignment to research the wild, She-Hulk did what any overqualified, slightly sarcastic superhero would do. She walked outside, found a nice patch of grass, stood in it, and called it a day. That's right, no microscopes, no field notebooks, no high-tech scanners. It's just raw, unfiltered standing. Because when you're in tune with nature, you feel the knowledge. She inhaled deeply, exhaled like a monk in a Marvel movie, and just like that, research was done. Who needs a jungle expedition when your yard has grass, bugs, and imagination? After her deeply scientific session of standing in grass, She-Hulk moved on to the next obvious step in her mission. Ingredient for aging, but not in the deep woods or some mystical glade. No, she strolled right into her own front yard and started digging for valuables. With the confidence of a master herbalist, she began poking around the bushes, snipping herbs like they were hidden treasures. Chamomile? Check. Sage? Maybe. Random decorative grass? Probably. But who's keeping track? Every pluck of a leaf was one step closer to curing Sims across the world, or at least impressing her supervisor. And honestly, if nature blessed her yard with ingredients, why walk further? Upstairs, Spruce slipped into his usual leafy outfit because of course, and decided it was time. He aged up baby Sheila into an infant, casually letting the game decide her traits like it was no big deal. The moment the sparkles cleared and the infant stood before him, something clicked or maybe snapped. Spruce's eyes widened and without saying a word, he sprinted straight to the bathroom sink in absolute terror. Parenthood unlocked. Panic immediate. Later that day, She-Hulk treated herself to a shiny new mountain bike and took it for a spin around the neighborhood, hoping it would boost her fitness skill. After her refreshing bike ride, She-Hulk dashed back home and planted a big appreciative kiss on Spruce for holding down the fort with the baby. With that kind of gratitude, let's just say Spruce might be in for a lucky night. Realizing she was no longer a plant sim and actually needed food, She-Hulk rushed to a nearby bench where someone had left a plate of food. Famished, she grabbed a serving and hopped onto the swing to eat it. In her hunger-fueled haze, she completely missed the green fumes wafting off the plate, a not-so-subtle warning sign. In the name of filling her needs, she wrecked her mood and her stomach. But hey, she's a naturopath. A little spoiled food is nothing a few homemade cures can't fix. The next morning, dressed in her sharp professional suit, She-Hulk stepped outside, ready to take on whatever the universe threw at her. And today, it threw a patient right at her on the street. The poor Sim was clearly in distress, with rocky, cracked textures creeping across her face like she had face planted into a gravel path. As always, She-Hulk's method was a mix of scientific curiosity, blunt force personality, and subtle intimidation. Whatever this rocky skin condition was, She-Hulk would get to the bottom of it, even if she had to interrogate the skin itself. She-Hulk began her unconventional checkup with a simple but odd request. She asked the patient to drop and give her some push-ups, counting each rep aloud. Once the count was done, She-Hulk circled her like a detective, asking question after question about diet, stress levels, sleep quality, and emotional well-being. The patient tried to keep up, but the rapid-fire questioning and her strange condition left her overwhelmed. She-Hulk softened for a moment. She offered the patient a hug, firm but warm, and assured her that a cure would be found. Not from a sterile clinic, but from the wild, where She-Hulk believed real healing began. She quickly got to work at her crafting bench, mixing wild herbs, a splash of emotional essence, and just a pinch of naturopathy flair. Moments later, she returned to the street only to find the patient mid-conversation with a plant, not watering it, not pruning it, actually chatting. She-Hulk gently interrupted the patient mid-conversation with the plant and confidently handed over the cures she had just crafted. The mix of herbs, emotional essence, and naturopathic genius worked like magic. Within moments, the rocky rash vanished and the patient beamed with relief. With another promotion secured and her stash of emotion potions running dangerously low, She-Hulk shifted gears. It was time to craft something a little more advanced. She marched to her crafting bench and began assembling an emotion stone, a curious little object designed to absorb and bottle up the raw emotions of suspecting or unsuspecting Sims around her. Practical? Yes. Ethical? Questionable. But when you're She-Hulk and low on inventory, you gotta do what you gotta do. Once the emotion stone was ready, She-Hulk didn't waste a second. She spotted a nearby vendor minding his business and marched straight over. With a dramatic flair, she raised the stone high into the air. A faint glow pulsed from it as it began to siphon the vendor's emotions. Confusion, annoyance, and maybe a hint of fear, all neatly bottled up. She-Hulk stood tall, stone in hand, as if she had just completed a magical heist. A bystander saw it all, so She-Hulk walked up, pulled out the emotion stone again and raised it high and siphoned his emotions without a word. The next morning, the peaceful air of the household was shattered by Sheila's non-stop wailing. Spruce walked up to Sheila, took a deep breath, and aged him into a toddler. Right then and there, it wasn't just about silencing the crying, it was survival. The moment the sparkles faded, he sighed in relief. At least now the chaos would come in smaller, louder footsteps instead of never-ending screams. Parenthood achieved. Sort of. The next day, She-Hulk was out and about, book in hand, deeply absorbed in her latest naturopathy read. Just as she passed a local tradesperson, the book slipped from her grip and hit the ground. But her animation didn't get the memo. She kept her hands in the same position, eyes fixed on her empty palms, nodding thoughtfully like she was still reading. The tradesperson looked confused, but She-Hulk unbothered. She carried on, flipping imaginary pages with full confidence. Later that evening, with the NAP inspector knocking at her door, no doubt ready to slap her with another fine, She-Hulk decided it was the perfect time for a strategic exit. She hopped on her mountain bike and rode off casually as if it were part of her evening wellness routine. The twist? She was still reading that invisible book, eyes locked on her empty palms like it held the secrets of the universe, multitasking, evading fines, and practicing palm-based literature. Just another day in the life of She-Hulk. In the morning, while She-Hulk was busy scrubbing away Sheila's latest catastrophe, some mysterious sticky mess that had made its way from the high chair to the curtains, a loud ring on the doorbell snapped her attention. She-Hulk opened the door with her signature professional but very much over-it smile. Without missing a beat, she launched into her classic routine, narrowed eyes, polite nods, and barrage of investigative questions designed to peel back the layers of whatever bizarre affliction her patient had come to complain about today. This time the patient revealed something strangely specific. Her ability to fix things had drastically improved overnight, yet everything around her was mysteriously falling apart. Appliances, gadgets, even furniture were breaking down one after the other, like she was a magnet of malfunction or cursed by karma in DIY form. Understanding the gravity of the situation, She-Hulk calmly reassured the patient that a cure was possible, but it wouldn't be instant. She asked her to wait inside while she gathered what she needed. The patient nodded, clearly still overwhelmed by the bizarre streak of unexplained object-breaking chaos. Just then, my computer crashed, completely out of nowhere. When I finally rebooted and loaded back into the game, I was hit with a surprise. My Sims were all wearing different outfits. It felt like the crash had triggered some secret fashion show backstage. Then I went inside and suddenly, She-Hulk was the one acting different. Out of nowhere, she shifted into a flirty mood. No idea why. Maybe the emotion bottling backfired, or maybe it was just one of those Sims moments. She tossed a few longing glances at the patient, moved in closer, and before I knew it, bam! She-Hulk leaned in and tried to kiss her. It was bold, unexpected, and definitely not in the medical handbook. Just then, Spruce walked upstairs right in the middle of the moment and caught them in the act. His eyes widened and the jealousy hit instantly. There stood his partner, She-Hulk, caught up in a flirty haze with someone else. The timing couldn't have been worse, and the betrayal stung. Spruce's leafy composure wilted just a little as he tried to process what he had just witnessed in his presumed absence. Spruce, burning with jealousy, didn't lash out. Instead, he channeled his fury into action. He grabbed the emotion stone, raised it high, and bottled his anger into a glowing flask. Still railing, he walked upstairs only to be struck by the sight of She-Hulk woohooing with the patient. Overwhelmed with heartbreak, he slapped She-Hulk in a moment of sadness, but even that didn't bring relief. So with trembling hands, he lifted the stone once more and bottled his sorrow into a second flask, trying to make sense of the chaos inside him. She took the bottles of emotion from Spruce and walked deep into the woods. With that final burst of insight, she maxed her herbalism skill right there at the crafting bench. Instead of heading straight home, She-Hulk returned to foraging for more ingredients, determined to perfect her cure. But time ran out. The workday ended before she could deliver it. Strangely enough, despite not curing the patient, she still got promoted. Maybe emotional growth counted too. She kept foraging through the woods all night, determined not to return empty-handed. She dug through bushes, examined tree trunks, and poked around under rocks until just before dawn, she finally found the last clump of rare moss needed for the holistic cure. Without hesitation, she marched straight to her crafting bench. Under the dim light of the late-night sky, she began preparing the holistic cure, grinding, mixing, and infusing each ingredient with focused precision. As the potion came together, a golden glow surrounded her, and just like that, she completed her aspiration. No celebration, no fanfare, just quiet fulfillment under the stars. So this was She-Hulk's journey through the naturopath career, not just about wellness and helping Sims with strange conditions, but a deeper mission all along. Now that she had finally learned the holistic cure recipe, her purpose here was complete. With the knowledge secured, it was time for her to return to where she came from. Her true home, far from the quiet neighborhoods and emotional flasks. What she'll do with the cure? That's a story for another world. But before leaving, She-Hulk made one final stop. She returned to the patient, this time without her usual routine of probing questions or lifestyle assessments. No diagnostics, no interviews, just a quiet moment as she handed over the handcrafted holistic cure. The patient took it, and almost instantly the strange ailment vanished. No more unexplained breakages, no more chaos. It was as if balance had been restored. With that, She-Hulk turned away, her mission fulfilled, and began her journey back to where it all began. So thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, share and subscribe to support the channel. I'll see you in the next one.